Here's a man who spends hours in hardware stores, sifting through the nuts and bolts of life. Joe Souchere.
Well, I'm thrilled to finally have met Kofi Montzka, who is in studio, and Kendall Qualls is joining us by phone. Hello, Kendall.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
How are you? And you know Kofi because she's one of your ambassadors for change.
Yes, absolutely. She's a dynamic young lady, and she's doing a lot to help change our culture.
And I was operating under the mistaken belief that you're running for governor, but you're putting your energy into what's called Take Charge, Minnesota?
Yeah, you know what? I started that in January. A lot of my, supporters from the original campaign just wanted, my voice, my campaign voice and my message to stick around for another cycle. And this thing is taken on a life of its own, and just because everything that's going on in our crazy world. And we're speaking all over the state. We've been asked to speak across the country on this topic of critical race theory,
right?
And the idea that the promise of America still works for anyone, regardless of race and regardless of social standing.
What do you find? I only take this from black people. I don't interview white people about critical race theory. What is your principal objection to critical race theory?
First of all, here's the premise behind it. It's 3 points. Number one, this is not a new civil rights movement. It's not a black-led movement. There's no Martin Luther King in front of this thing. There's not even Al Sharpton in front of it.
Good.
It's a progressive left agenda. And number two, they're using racial disparity numbers to justify their agenda. And then lastly, number three, the third point, when you peel back the onion, it's not even racial disparity numbers. That's the root of the problem. It's two-parent disparity numbers, and that's the focus of what we're doing with Take Charge. Is we're focusing on restoring the black community to its cultural roots of faith, family, and education.
What do you think the agenda is behind this?
It is, this is what my wife called it when we speak, and it's a really good phrase. It's a bulletless revolution to change the culture, the nature, and character of our country.
For the worse?
For a socialist agenda.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now, tell us your relationship with Kofi and what we're going to hear here when you apparently got invited to speak at Elk River High School. Is that correct?
No, not Elk River. In fact, I just returned from Minnetonka High School just a few minutes ago. I was in Shoreview last night. We've been all over the state, but not Elk River.
Oh, I thought you got disinvited from someplace.
I was invited to speak. So here's what it was: the superintendent was invited to speak with me to get my views on critical race theory from a Take Charge perspective and from a black person's perspective. And that interview, that time for us to meet, he moved forward and canceled it, literally at the last minute, because he didn't like our position on critical race theory and what we were doing to promote truth.
The superintendent of which district?
I think it was Elk River. It's ISD 728.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that school district. So that's what when you said I was invited to speak, I thought you meant on campus, but it was a meeting with the two of us.
Okay, meeting with you and the super of the Elk River district.
Right.
Okay, and what caused him to withdraw the invitation to you two to have a meeting?
Well, I don't want to blame Kofi on this, but because that could have been like the camel, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Her speech to Roseville.
Yeah.
Okay.
We saw a video, and basically the essence of, hey, look, you're spreading disinformation, divisiveness, and because of this, I don't think we need to speak. And my response to him was, look, the last thing I do is spread disinformation, and definitely not half truths. It's not my fault that when parents find out about this, they, by large margins, regardless of their political affiliation, they're not in favor of critical race theory. It's an agenda. It's a far left agenda that has nothing to do with the character of our country.
Well, I think it might be helpful if we replay,
Give me a minute.
Kofi's remarks to the Roseville School Board, and those are being cited for containing disinformation, apparently. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, there wasn't any disinformation in her remarks. Is she not entitled to those remarks?
Well, here's the issue, and what we're finding across the country. It's not a coincidence that all these school districts across the country are doing exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. And despite that, Americans, like I said, disapprove it. Parents don't want it or like it in large percentages, and they could care less. They're driving an agenda and ramming it down our throats. That is the most un-American way to approach a situation, especially when it involves their children with their own tax dollars.
And Kofi, you became aware of this as it pertained to your children. You disagree with it, and you went to Roseville to give them a piece of your mind, which you did entirely with civility. And I think it would be helpful to play this again. And Kendall, this is apparently what Dan Bittman heard, and at which point he decided not to meet with you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, let's replay. This is from September
19th.
September 19th of just this year, just not even a month ago yet. And this was Kofi appearing, before which I knew nothing about Kofi Montzka. I've known Kendall for a while. I'm only meeting Kofi in person for the first time today. But we were so intrigued at having been alerted to her remarks to the Roseville School Board that we played them, and I think it would be helpful to play them again.
I have 3 boys, 2 in Roseville schools. One of my kids has special needs. He's in a different school. My friends from the Exodus movement are here to support me at theexodusmn.org. I started a group called Roseville United, and there's a lot of us here tonight. I'm here to ask the district to stop promoting critical race theory and Black Lives Matter. People who support CRT say people like me and people who are against CRT are racist. That's their only defense. Yet CRT is racist. It tells kids of color like my children that they will never be able to make it, and white kids that they are inherently racist. When I was a little kid, I had reoccurring dreams about the KKK when I was 7 years old. And now people who look like this are being told they're racist in this school. And it is absolutely appalling. And you might say, I've heard people say, we don't have CRT. We do have CRT in this school. I see it every day. My kid said they're already started with it. He's already miserable about having to start school. Last year, you gave my kid an assignment to read an article out of Scholastica Kids entitled Making Our Voices Heard that told him he would face racism in every facet of his life, from education to the workplace to healthcare. He showed me this article because he found it very discouraging. In the middle school, after George Floyd's killing, they sent out an email and they actually segregated kids by race to talk about it. In the email, it said, we will have a group for whites, for blacks, for Asians, for Hispanics. I couldn't even believe it that we're going back to segregation after all we fought for. In middle school, you segregated kids of color by having the kids of color stand up, and the white kids stayed out, and you offered kids of color $10 to give away all their personal, private, disciplinary information to an outside organizations. And I've also heard from teachers here that you have a policy like Minneapolis that discourages teachers from disciplining kids of color because as the Isaiah group says, disciplining kids of color is a pipeline to prison. Well, I have to tell you something, not disciplining them is the pipeline to prison. Telling them they don't have to be accountable, that they're stinking animals, they're not like white people who can behave. We have lesser standards. We don't think they're truly equal. I don't think you think we're equal, and it's appalling to me. Systematic racism does not exist. We used to have systematic racism. It was called slavery and segregation, and we fought alongside each other to end it. It doesn't exist. BLM said they're fighting for the liberation of black people. We are free. Breaking news, we are free. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. This movement makes black people look delusional. It blames white people for all our problems when everybody knows they're not. Our successes belong to us, as do our challenges. And the wonderful thing is, we can do better for ourselves. We don't have to sit around and wait for some white savior to come around and help us. And I wish Roseville schools gave that message. It seems like, I don't think you will though, because you guys love it. You white people love it. You need black people to be victims, to cleanse yourselves of your unjustified white guilt. Well, do it some other way. Get a friend, get a therapist, don't use my kids. In conclusion, I hope you find Can I just say my last sentence? In conclusion, I hope my kids find your racist messages unbelievable because they see me, their mom, who was raised by a drug addict and suffered abuse as a child, become a lawyer. If I was inundated with these ideas, I don't know where I'd be today.
Before we resume, clear up the $10 thing again, Kofi. That the kids were offered $10 for personal information.
Yeah, the school was paid by an outside organization they were given money in exchange for getting information from our kids. And so they gave the kids a survey in which they asked the kids personal disciplinary information, mental health information about the kids to give to this outside organization. And they offered the kids $10. And in class, they had the kids of color stand up, offered them the survey and offered them the $10 while the white kids sat. Wow. So the segregation bothered me. How they used these kids bothered me.
Wow. And Kendall, you pick it up from here. You heard those remarks. I don't. I find them terribly refreshing. And pick it up from here. What then happened?
I've received an email from the superintendent that because of this email and what you're spreading, it's divisive. It's misinformation. There's no need for us to meet. And look, that's fine. And much like Kofi mentioned, but we're starting a movement that have no idea how big this is going to be. Starting right here in the Twin Cities, we're building in the Twin Cities a movement of people from the Black community, regardless of background. We have some people that are former gang members, former people who are on public assistance, people that have never gotten in trouble and work at Ecolabs and doing great and want to turn the culture around, and we're going to do it from the ground up. And because the biggest issue, 90% of the problem, and we want to take away the excuse, and the excuse is that racial disparity, 90% of our problem is that these kids are growing up in fatherless homes that they didn't used to be the culture. We didn't used to live like this as the Black community. And literally, Joe, I just want to say this is the crux of the problem. And the critical race theory doesn't even have this solution on their agenda. The day Martin Luther King was assassinated, the Black community was nearly 80% two-parent families. And I was 5 years old. We've gone from 80% two-parent families to 80% fatherless homes in a lifetime without one national initiative to reverse it. They don't want to reverse it. We own part of that in the Black community. But I tell you, if we were a spotted owl or a beetle, we would be on the endangered species list. There would be programs and initiation and bumper stickers, save the Black family, and it would be trumpeted around. But we've been used as a political tool for 50 years, and it stops today.
But that's why you started Take Charge. It's called Take Charge Minnesota?
That's right. Take charge of your life, take charge of your family, take charge of your community. You don't need an endorsement. You don't need a government grant to do this. In our worst period in our country, after the Civil War, the Black community was united as a family. We had a family, we had community, we had culture. Faith, family, and education was our premise. Out of that culture came Condoleezza Rice, Michelle Obama, Colin Powell. All the people that we see today came out of those kind of communities. We're not going to get anyone like that out of our communities when you have literally in North Minneapolis, almost 90% of the kids are actually born in fatherless homes. That's not who we used to be, and we're going to change it. And we're not waiting for the politicians to do anything about it.
On this show, we've used a term. I find it, I don't even know what the word is because it's far more than troubling, but Kofi identifies it. Kendall, you've identified it. You've got to quit telling the left to quit doing you any favors. They're making children of color, particularly in the schools, less than. I find it sinful. They're making kids less than. And it's ruining the kids.
And that's exactly right. And to my point around that, and to your point, when you look at all of the programs that the critical race theory proponents have for their agenda, strengthening and restoring the nuclear family is not on the last page. It's not on the last bullet point. It's not even on the list.
Right.
It's a false narrative, and they're using again us in the Black community and those racial disparities as an agenda to drive what they want politically. And just as a note, I just had an article published in the Federalist because there's a organization actually in St. Paul, the National Council on Family Relations, had a webinar, continuing education program that now coined the two-parent black family as an extension of white privilege.
Who benefits from driving home this message to children?
Well, what it does, it creates a culture that needs to be governed.
Okay. Was Kenny going to speak?
I think so.
Kenny, go ahead.
I'd like to ask Kendall to repeat that. What did they say about two-parent black families?
No. Not two-parent. The whole idea of the two-parent nuclear family, regardless of, it's now labeled, and this is the quote, like white privilege, family privilege is an unknown and unearned benefit.
Wow.
Family privilege is a structural mechanism hidden within our white supremacist society that creates systemic barriers to equal opportunity and justice for all families.
You are kidding me.
That's utter BS.
That's right. We posted that on our website.
Wow.
Again, that article, my article was published in the Federalist. It's a full frontal attack against our country, guys. So it's not just critical race theory in schools. It's in corporate now, and now it's the two-parent family is now an extension of white privilege.
A two-parent family is an extension of white privilege. Kofi, it's been almost a month since your remarks. Has anything changed in the Roseville schools?
No.
Okay.
Not that I know of, except for the fact that we have a movement of parents who are now in Roseville who are fighting for good.
Do you think it took someone like you, though, to speak up where everyone else then thought, okay, it's finally okay to talk against the system? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, the other people I work with are very bright and they are great speakers and they are great advocates, but I feel like white people in general are silenced and they're not listened to these days. And so they might be saying the same things I am, but they don't get listened to. Only people who they view as victims, and I think that that's pretty terrible.
But you are being joined by white parents, I hope.
Yep, parents of all races and white parents.
Because everyone needs to see the folly of this movement. Kendall, let's get back to repeating something you said that's terribly important. Who benefits with these terrible ideas? Who benefits?
Well, if you believe in centralized control, centralized government, socialist philosophies, you benefit. I mean, basically, the National Teachers Union, one of the things that they said that this summer they had an annual meeting, and one of the things they said they're going to do, part of their annual meetings, is develop committees to fight back against the anti-CRT rhetoric. That's one. Number two, they said that they're going to they label capitalism in the same category as racist, as white supremacist, that they're going to fight back against these evil things in our country. It's capitalism. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't believe in capitalism, you believe in one of the other two forms of government, socialism or communism. Mm-hmm. Either one's not my preference.
No, and they don't work.
That's exactly right. But the people that run those systems love it.
I might have asked Kofi this, but I'll ask both of you again. What pill didn't you take? What Kool-Aid didn't you drink? You both obviously view America as a place where you can succeed.
Well, I saw it in my own life. Like, right. I saw myself.
You only passed 2 bar exams. Who are you kidding?
But yeah, I mean, I saw it in my own life. So when people tell me I'm dumb, or like that, it's not that I think I'm super bright. I have to work hard for everything I have. But it is possible when you work hard and when you see it in your own life. And then your kids go to school every day and they tell them nothing can happen for them until white people change. Oh. It's heartbreaking. And that's what made me.
It really is.
Anyone would be angry.
And Kendall, I know your background. You came up the hard way, and yet you have this wonderful cherishing in your heart about this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I saw something that was against the narrative. So first of all, when I used to visit my mother in Harlem, in the summers when I was in school, because my parents were divorced, I lived in Oklahoma, traveled back to Harlem to visit my mom. Nothing changed in Harlem, but the same congressional representative, Charlie Rangel, was there.
Yep.
And I didn't understand the idea that we're supposed to live in perpetual poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And in Oklahoma, you know, I got an education, I was doing better, but everyone else, when I go back to visit my other family, things got worse in their life. Just like they were told that you can never get ahead, you know, the white people are bad, blah, 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 blah. And I saw the opposite. Not only did I work hard and go to school and all this other stuff, but guess what? There were people helping me, my personal and my professional life, that didn't look like me. And throughout the country, Americans help one another when they see someone trying to better their lot in life. And I got a chance to see a different perspective. And what I'm doing is really helping to free a lot of people mentally from the barriers that's preventing them to succeed. And because the people that should be servicing them, leading them in their communities, have been using them for decades, and it's time to end that.
Well, and it's to the point where CRT is being officially institutionalized. Rather than you as a kid hearing you'll never get ahead, it's now being that's going to officially be taught. Unless you can stop it, and you're the man to stop it, and Kofi's the woman to stop it, and you'll need thousands more, but I have no doubt that you'll attract tens of thousands more.
Well, here's the dirty little secret. It's been taught. It's been taught for years now,
Mm-hmm.
and in fact, there's a report with evidence showing in Virginia that they've implemented critical race theory in 2015.
Mm-hmm. You guys really have your jobs cut out for you, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
You'd make a wonderful team. How about Kendall and Kofi Lieutenant Governor, or Kofi for Governor and Kendall Lieutenant Governor? But I understand that both of you at this point do not have political interests at heart. Is that correct?
No,
Good.
I don't.
You don't. You don't have political interests at heart?
I do not.
You do not.
Not at this point.
Kendall, you did the 3rd congressional run, and you're taking a break from politics. Is that correct?
Yep, I'm taking a break at this point. I'm being encouraged to look at several different things, and right now I'm focused on this and contemplating which is the best route.
Kenny?
Kendall and Kofi, I have a question for you. When, Kendall, you started talking about this, I went on the ISD School District 728, and I ended up on their mission page, and one of their statements in their mission is, we believe it is the responsibility of all ISD 728 students and staff to be anti-racist. Now, that's a term that's been thrown around quite frequently for the past couple of years. I would like to hear both of your definitions of that, because I am still unsure about what that means.
Well, to be an anti-racist basically means to be a racist. They use all of these flowery words and to try to trick people, equity and systematic racism, and it actually works, and that's what's terrible, and it's just pure hypocrisy. I too was looking at their website for ISD 728, and I just wanted to be clear that I don't care if people criticize me. If I'm going to come out and talk, then people can criticize me. It's the First Amendment. I believe strongly in it. I'm not some person that's going to say I'm black, you can't criticize me, or anything like that. But he's the superintendent of a school district that has all over his website how much he values people of color. It specifically says the lives of our Black, Indigenous, and students, staff, and community members of color matter. We must facilitate discussion and make changes. And yet when he had the opportunity to meet with Kendall Qualls, he decided not to. And he criticized me about how the critical racism theory was impacting my kids. And he proved my point exactly from my school board speech, that some white people, not all, need black people to be victims to rid themselves of their white guilt and to feed their savior complex. And if we don't fit that box or that narrative, they throw us out with the trash. And they prove that all the crap on their website is not true, and all their virtue signaling is just crap, because they don't truly care about all black lives or doing anything substantive to make a difference in our lives.
They wouldn't meet with a guy who is a self-made success and ran a hell of a race in the 3rd congressional district and has now started a wonderful. I can't believe that. And if this is it, Dan Bittner?
Yes.
If he hears this podcast, sir, you're more than welcome to call me and correct me. But I think you're a moron.
What? Yeah, it's hard not to jump to that conclusion.
Right.
And can I tell you something else he did? He had this, it's all in Alpha News. There's an article called Minnesota High School Equity specialist defends looting and arson. And so they have a video of this guy in a classroom for 24 minutes telling the students about how looting is okay, burning down buildings is okay because white people own them. Even if they're rented by black people, white people own them. It's okay to do this in the name of BLM and to get attention. The parents were outraged.
Do you know what school this was?
I think it was Elk River High School, but don't quote me.
All right.
And the parents were outraged and asked that this person be fired or disciplined. They did a data report request. This person has not been disciplined. He's still working with students. Not once have I seen that he's been called disruptive or divisive, like he called me when I was speaking to the school board about my children. And so I feel like it's just direct hypocrisy. They don't really care about black lives. They care about spreading an agenda.
You guys are not staying within the boundaries, that's all. You guys are outside the boundaries.
Yep, we've gotten uppity.
Yeah, you're uppity. You're an uppity person, Kofi. This is amazing.
More questions for Kofi. I was very touched by your speech. And explain this to me in a little more in depth. Your kids were actually afraid to go back to school this year because they thought white people were out to get them? Did I interpret that correctly?
Not entirely correctly. What happened is my kid came home with the syllabus, talking about the syllabus, like from the first day of school and everything they were going to learn in their global studies class, which was just pure politics, immigration, CRT, I looked at the syllabus. They fit it in every single topic that they could possibly do. Global warming was a part of it. And so my son just said he just came home kind of down and said.
What grade is this kid?
He is in 8th grade.
All right.
And he just said, Mom, they're starting it already. Look at this syllabus. I got a whole year of this ahead of me.
Okay. Wow. I understand now. I understand. Okay.
Well, Joe, you had the story that you were going to save for this particular discussion, and in fact, how the current administration would now label Kofi as a terrorist, correct?
A parents group is questioning Attorney General Merrick Garland's decision to open an investigation into purported threats and acts of violence against school boards across the U.S. after the group discovered that the Attorney General's son-in-law is the co-founder of an education company that uses critical race theory in his work. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's too long, but at the highest levels of government, there is the endorsement of using critical race theory in the schools. And here you are at the ground level as black parents, and you see the folly of it, and you're being ignored. Is that right, Kendall?
Well, yeah, correct. But here's the scenario. I'm working with an organization of retired general officers, and they are pushing back on this because it's being pushed in all the service academies, West Point, Naval Academy, and in the active duty ranks. If there's one institution in our country that is creating an environment where diverse people can achieve and operate at high levels of performance, it is our military. But they're pushing this agenda. If anything it does, it helps create people that believe that the country is unjust, evil, and you almost create an incubator for people to take secrets and sell them and undermine our country. It is a full force thrust. Again, not just in the schools. It's happening in some of our global companies as well, corporate companies, military, and now this attack on the family. What I want to make sure that viewers understand is this is not. We're trying to help Black Americans feel better. Kind of the George Floyd. They're taking that incident and using it as a political weapon to undermine our country.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I have. How can people help your group? Is there a website or a site to go to either maybe come? I mean, Kofi is what called an ambassador for change, right?
We're a Take Charge ambassador.
Take Charge ambassador, and maybe other people would wish to do that.
Well, absolutely. We have nearly 30 now. The goal is to get 50 by the end of the year. What's happening organically with this, Joe, is that our website is becoming the largest platform where Black Americans speak positively about the country, and they denounce critical race theory, and they talk about the need for all of us as the culture in the Black community to go back to the roots of faith, family, and education. It's happening organically, one of the largest ones, and I'm really excited about the people that are coming forward to help do that.
I get the faith and family part, but I don't trust the education.
Well, you know what? You can get education outside of the school buildings.
Right.
If you're concerned about critical race theory, there's other venues.
And Take Charge supports school choice.
Okay.
And that's exactly right. And 50% of the kids graduate. Black and Hispanic kids graduate in Minneapolis public school system. 50%.
50%.
It's been that way
Wow.
for 6 consecutive years.
Mm-hmm.
And the legislatures won't give those moms school choice.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why won't they, in your opinion?
Well, it's a teachers union.
Yep.
They've got a mandate, and they know anyone that votes in favor of it, they'll try to primary and get them out of office.
And although they say they care so much about kids of color, they prove that they don't.
Right.
Absolutely.
Just by their actions. Absolutely.
Right.
Where's their human dignity? This is beyond the pale.
Well, I think Kofi nailed it. It was in your video. You nailed it. It was the sense of white guilt, and I guess I'm going to put words in right.
I
Isn't
don't
that
have any guilt.
I don't either.
Not all. I said some people have this white
Right.
guilt. It's like their religion. It's like they need to help us in order to have self-value.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
And a lot of
And
it.
the other one is they have a political agenda that's bigger than any individual's concerns or human dignity.
And that political agenda is the fundamental transformation of the country, which for years I've called the mystery on this show. I call it the mystery. Bringing about a country that we won't recognize.
Right.
And once again, black people are being used.
Yep.
I've more questions for Kofi. I'm wondering what you witness and what your kids, your kids' friend groups at school. My son's 21 now. He went to Sanford Middle School, Roosevelt High School, and on parent nights when we would go in as parents, we would witness kids of all makes and models that were buddies with each other. The only groups or cliques were like the football clique, the cheerleader, and the cliques that we saw when we were kids. What do you see now, both before and after CRT has been introduced? Is this causing a rift between black kids and white kids, or kids from other countries? Do you see any of that happening?
No, actually, I think that what I see, what my kid tells me is that kids who are from Democrat or Republican families, no matter where they're from politically, they're getting upset at what they're hearing. My kid has a Muslim friend. He's Somali.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
an Asian friend, white
Right.
friends. And no matter what their parents' political affiliation, they're getting mad about the stuff they are told in school, and they think it's bunk. And they get together, and when they have to hear that crap, they sit and whisper about it and try to console each other.
Yeah.
And my kid went on a bike ride on last Saturday with kids of all different races. So I feel like it's so ridiculous that some of the kids see how ridiculous it is, and they're not falling for it, which gives me a little bit of hope.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
exactly what I witnessed, including trans kids. In the eyes of the other kids, they were equal. There wasn't any talking up to or talking down to each other. They're kids and, buddies.
Yep.
All right.
That's how it works. My kid went to a birthday party of the little trans kid in his family. He went and bought him a pink teddy bear at the Target, and he said, "I have to go to that party, Mom, because I don't know if any other kids are going to show up, so I got to make sure I'm there." And so, that's love.
And it's always the parents wringing their hands. It's not the kids. Yeah.
I had a story today. A guy emailed me about some kid that identifies as a cat. I'm drawing the line. And that's it. I'm drawing the line.
Kendall, I've been informed that you're going to be speaking tonight in my neck of the woods in Chaska. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate. You can find out more at the Center of, so we're speaking on behalf of the Center of American Experiment tonight, but we have events on our website at takechargemn.com. Last night we were in Shoreview. It probably was 120 people that had to bring in extra chairs, and the receptivity has always been very positive, very strong, and we expect the same in Chaska.
And these events are open to the public, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, cool.
What website do people go to find out about your schedule and your activities and your movement? What is the website?
Yeah, so our website is takechargemn.com. And so I've only released a few of these events because we've had some distractors. But I can tell you the one we're having that we're really excited about with Jason Riley from the Wall Street Journal on Friday, November 5th. It's not open to the public, but they can It's a fundraiser. They can purchase tickets. But the theme of that evening is envisioning a post-racial America. How do we move the country beyond racial identity and strife?
You said you don't advertise all of these appearances because you've had some detractors. Who would they be?
So some Black Lives Matters, if it's some teacher union officials shouting down and that type of thing.
Good Lord.
And they go to disrupt other people from learning. It's just it's not who we are as a country, and I don't want to make it easy for them to figure this out. But even with that, most of these events are pretty much standing room only. I've spoken across the state from the Iron Range down to Albert Lee. Tonight will be my 36th talk from the August 1st. Mm-hmm. I've put on 11,400 miles on our car since August 1st.
Oh boy,
You sound like Reavers.
I speak around the state, and just like Paul Revere, awakening Americans to let them know what's going on in their communities, because their country is slipping underneath their feet, and they don't even know it.
Do you two ever appear together, Kofi and Kendall?
At events.
At speeches?
We have not yet. We
Okay.
kind of divide and conquer sometimes.
All right.
So.
Do you speak publicly, Kofi?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and is there a way for people to reach you?
They can. I have another group too. That's just 5 women, and a lot of us are part of Take Charge. But you can find information on me and contact me through the exodusmn.org.
Exodusmn.org. And what does the Exodus refer to? Getting out of the public school system?
Yeah, freeing whites from guilt and blacks from mental slavery.
Wonderful. Jeez. ExodusMN.org.
And I'll provide links to all of those
Yeah.
at the various Garage Logic social media channels.
And there's like a contact us on there where you can send an email that I will receive.
All right. I would think parents of any race would enjoy hearing either one of you, because I can't find anything about your message to take umbrage with. What is there to find a foul?
And that's what I was going to ask Kendall. You said that you have met opposition with those various groups. Do you think that there is a specific reason why you're getting opposition from those particular groups?
It's because they're effective.
Because it's working.
It's working. And you know what? Look, what I share with people there, I said, look, guys, first of all, in times like this, Americans don't back down from a fight, and God's people stand up against evil.
Yep.
And if we don't understand that, look, I came from nothing, absolutely zero, nothing. And what I accomplished in my life, it's only a blessing for me and my wife and kids. All of that has been exceptional. And, to lose that because, because we've been so comfortable in our affluence for so long, it's very dangerous. So what I remind Americans, look, you need to remember the last line of the national anthem. This is the land of the free, home of the brave, and it's darn, it is high time we start acting like it.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they're trying to negate everything that you two have accomplished in life. You know what I mean?
Because we don't fit the narrative.
Right.
So here's, Joe, I mean, you've seen this you think about, as I mentioned with Harlem, with Charlie Rangel in Chicago and Maxine Waters. They've been elevated to almost like the medieval class of medieval Europe, where they have held over fiefdom over a populace that has been in perpetual poverty for 50 years. That's and they want that to spread beyond the black community.
Well, there's a great wrong that you have to fight, and you are, and I wish you the best of luck. Anything we can do, you just let me know anytime.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you for this time. I feel confident we're going to win this. It takes a long time to wake the sleeping giant, but once the sleeping giant of the American people wakes, we can still win this. And look, I'm not suggesting any confrontation. It is just being active in their government, voting, and actually running in some cases if they have the capacity to do so.
Yeah, and if you're upset about what happened in Elk River and you want to call the person out, you can email schoolboard@isd728.org to let your opinions be known. They try to silence us by calling us terrorists, by citing the information that I said in my school board speech where I gave specific examples of critical racism theory, and I gave names of articles that my kid was given. And this school board superintendent still wants to call it misinformation. They want to call us terrorists, say we spout misinformation. They want to call you a racist, and they expect you to ball up in the fetal position like the Republicans of the past. And that's over. And I think they're hearing us loud and clear, and be encouraged and keep up the fight.
Wow.
Yeah, but still, you only got 2 bar exams passed. That's nothing.
This might be the best.
If I could just say this on Kofi's behalf, mine, if we were to go on the other side, we could be making a lot of money doing these equity audits, all these different things.
Yeah.
Literally 5-figure contracts, multiple contracts. If we making money doing this stuff, where a lot of these other organizations are there. I mean, all these school systems, government agencies. We're doing this in most cases with nothing. We're not asking for anything. We're doing this out of the genuineness of what's the best for our families, our children, and the future of our country.
Do both of you hold out hope that there is a silent majority who believes with the line of thinking that both of you do?
I have hope, but I have to kind of fight for it every day because I get very discouraged sometimes.
Sure.
But, I do have hope because there's so many articles. I mean, they're trying to call us domestic terrorists because of what we're doing. They are threatened. And so that gives me hope. Go ahead, Kendall. Sorry.
It gives me hope as well. There's tons of hope. The reason is because there's a lot more of us, and I saw it in Minnetonka High School today. The problem is that we feel like we need to remain silent. And what I tell audience as well is, to Kendall, if I say anything, I'm going to get called a racist. But look, they think you're a racist anyway. And oftentimes, 95% of the time, the person calling you a racist is a white person that wants to segregate, the classroom.
Wow.
So, stand up, guys. It is time to stand up.
Yeah, it is.
It's our kids. We pay the bills.
That's right. Thank you both very much. Unless anyone else have anything?
Yeah,
Ken?
I don't think I'm done yet. What is it? What's it going to take to turn this around to where school boards are finally going to say, I think we're doing this wrong? What's it going to take? I mean, an overwhelming majority? How are we going to make any headway here?
Do you want to take it, Kendall?
Yeah. That was an easy one. Look, they're uncomfortable with us coming up to these school boards, but they're not going to change. They're going to drive forward. They have a mandate. The only way to do this, we have to vote them out. And we have to wake up enough of the people to get an overwhelming majority in the vote to be school board and city council members.
Yeah.
And we need a mass exodus from public schools. And so we have another group called Excellence in Education that Kendall and I both work with. And we're working on a mass exodus. You can see all the stats online when you look, but there's been a lot of parents who have left the public school. And we have to speak with our dollars because they could care less about our success. And we can sue them for their racism because racism is illegal in this country.
You had the story about St. Paul. Was it the vacancy rate, or what do you call it?
Got to close 5 schools because they're losing students. Well, I want to quit paying so much money then. Well, why are we paying if you're shrinking the inventory? It just doesn't make any sense.
It's always about Joe's checkbook.
It really is. It really is.
It really is for all of us.
Yeah. Thank you, Kofi. See, Kenny, she put you in your place, you moron. Well, you're doing the Lord's work, Kendall and Kofi, and what I would like to do is do this again in 3 months, 4 months, just to do updates on what's happening.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good. And, by that time, I'll have a nice surprise I'll share with you guys about this agenda. Don't worry, it's not political. It is.
He's running for president.
Good.
No. But about what we're doing here in the space of critical race theory and education, we have a bombshell that we're going to be releasing soon.
Well, will you keep me in the loop so we can have you on again?
Absolutely.
All right, thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank you, Kendall.
Kendall Qualls and Kofi Montzka, and I appreciate both of you, and thank you for coming in, Kofi. and we'll remain in touch.
Absolutely. Coffee, and was there anything else that we needed to promote, or we to get everything out of your... Look, you guys, she took like 28 pages of notes for this appearance today. Way more than any of us have
You
ever
haven't
done
taken
in prep.
28 pages of notes in 20 years.
Yeah, I want to. What didn't we get to, Coffee, in your notes?
Yeah, what
Is there
didn't we
anything
get to?
else?
Nope. I think you covered everything.
Good.
All right.
Good.
All right.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, thank you.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.